Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a bad man. I shook up the wall. I shook up the wall. I shook up the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Blow by Blow, episode 7. Tonight, we're going to recap Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. The truth is back on the map like he never left. 100% dedicated Errol. It did not translate to 100% back Errol because he had a little bit of ring rust. So we're going to talk about all of the above, fighters react, and more. So go ahead and call in to place your position on the press conference. The number is in the description box. With that being said, let's go ahead and get the party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Shout out to all of my AKHis in the chat. Jay Lease, Garcia, Big Lake Show, X, and everybody that's tuning in on the late night edition. With that being said, like I said before, if you guys didn't watch my fight review for Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia, one thing about Errol Spence, people love to hold fighters accountable as far as the statements they make prior to the fight, leading up to the fight, in which Errol Spence stated that at 70%, Errol Spence at 70% will beat a Danny Garcia. He also stated that he will give Danny Garcia the beating of his career, or at least that's his goal. Even though he did not get the knockout tonight, even though he gassed out later on in the fight because of the layoff and him coming off a car accident in which he survived in a miracle way, it's fair to say that Errol Spence dominated Danny Garcia more than any of Danny Garcia's previous opponents, from Sean Porter to Keith Thurman. All of those fights were close. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Keith Thurman fight was a split decision. I could be wrong, but the Sean Porter fight as well, it was very close. However, no one have dominated Danny Garcia the way Errol Spence did. So it's highly impressive for a 70% Errol to dominate Danny Garcia to this extent. Obviously, even though Errol Spence is 100% dedicated, he 100% focused, just like he was back in the day for the Kell Brook fight, for the Lamont Pearson fight. However, for this fight, it showed that the layoff had a little effect on him because he was dominant. He was dominant throughout the fight. As soon as this fight started to look like Mikey Garcia Part 2, that's when Danny Garcia, he kind of had like a second win. He came back. He started applying a lot of pressure on Errol. And for some reason, Errol Spence gassed out of nowhere, at least according to him. And we could see the effects of that during the fight. I believe maybe the ninth and the 10th round. Errol Spence went from going 100 miles per hour to 70 miles per hour. Like I said, this is possibly a 70% Errol due to the fact that he's coming off a car accident and his longest layoff of his pro career. He started off strong, dominated the early rounds. The later part of the fight, he was dominating Danny Garcia. He was on the verge of stopping Danny Garcia. In fact, I mean, he was breaking Danny Garcia down, putting a beating on Danny, and out of nowhere, it ain't like Danny Garcia landed a punch and Errol Spence, or he had a great momentum in which the fight shifted. None of that took place. It seemed like out of nowhere, Errol Spence just, took off the gas and started boxing more so. And that's when Danny Garcia had his second win, and he was able to put a couple rounds in the bank. The way I had this fight scored, I believe I got to go back and watch the fight because I was super duper hyped. Obviously I threw a party and all that above. So it's hard to focus when there's a lot of people in the room. I still got to go back and watch the fight. I think I gave 9 rounds to Errol Spence and 3 rounds to Danny Garcia. I could see how people gave Danny Garcia 4 rounds, but nevertheless, the rounds that Danny Garcia won, he had to work for them rounds. He won them rounds, but Errol still did great work. He was landing and he was in them rounds. But the rounds that Errol Spence won, it was literally a beatdown on some man down. That's why I stated that Errol Spence dominated Danny Garcia, which is highly impressive for Errol Spence to come back to the game and show the world that he back like he never left and dominate an A-level fighter at welterweight, A-class level fighter like Danny Garcia, who've been in the trenches with everybody from Sean Porter to Keith Thurman and all of the above. It's highly impressive. It's highly impressive for Errol Spence to come back to the game and dominate a guy like Danny Garcia and win 9 rounds clearly. That's highly impressive to me. But nevertheless, I think Errol Spence needs a tune-up, another tune-up before even thinking about fighting a guy like Terrence Crawford, because that wasn't his 100%. Obviously, like I told you guys before, we never see Errol Spence gassed out in a fight. Even when he was cutting corners against Sean Porter and Mikey Garcia, he still threw 1,000 punches in them fights, and he didn't feel gassed out, nor he gassed out during the fight. So the fact that he was dominating Danny Garcia, landing great body work, and out of nowhere, it seemed like he gassed out. Even though he's 100% focused, he trained 1,000% in training during his training camp. He said this is possibly one of his best camps. Either he overtrained or his body is still recovering from the car accident that he survived in a miracle way. So either or, it's wise for Errol Spence to have another tune-up fight against another A-level fighter, which that's crazy to have another tune-up against another A-level fighter. You don't normally hear that. When we say tune-up is against like a C-level fighter, even a B-level fighter, but against an A-level fighter, that's how you know Errol Spence is special. That's why he's the truth. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the calls. I'm not going to waste any time because I got a lot to cook. So I'd rather cook it with all of my AKHis that's going to call in. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
What it do, AKHi? It's your boy Jay calling out of that. Oh, what it do, brother?
Jay, what's going on? So Pacquiao came out. He congratulated Errol Spence. Manny Pacquiao said, hold on, let me pull up what he said in particular. He said, welcome back, Errol Spence. Congratulations on your victory. Now, the Errol Spence that you saw tonight, what's your take on, maybe a Manny Pacquiao fight next for Errol Spence? Did Manny Pacquiao see something in Errol in which might, encourage him to take the fight with Errol Spence next? Because remember, when Keith had a lackluster performance against Lopez, he fought Keith Thurman right away. He thought he saw something in Keith, and he was absolutely right. So did you see something in Errol Spence tonight?
Honestly, no, man. I saw no flaws in Errol Spence tonight. I saw the old EJ that we know. Um, Beautiful performance by our Dallas native in Errol the True Spence. Welcome back, brother. You came back with a vengeance. Beautiful, beautiful, dominant performance by Errol Spence. It was a amazing classic. Um, I gave Errol Spence 9 of those rounds, and I gave Danny Garcia 3 of those rounds for one specific reason. The fact that Danny Garcia gave it his all in the 10th and 11th and 12th round, gave it everything he got, even though he was outgunned and just outboxed, outclassed, and outleveled by Errol. Beautiful, beautiful combination sequences going on by Errol Spence, upstairs and downstairs, not only against the ropes, but even in the center of the ring and on the outside and on the inside and on and also in mid range. Danny Garcia was flat-footed, and I mean, he just could not handle the jab that Errol Spence was throwing at him. The jab kept Danny Garcia at bay. Danny Garcia could not land his signature left hook. He could not get on the inside. He barely could even land his lead right hand, and that's his calling card. And he threw that. He threw it at Errol Spence all night long, could not land it. Errol Spence's footwork and his angle movements was giving Danny Garcia problems, and Errol Spence was just, I mean, it was just beautiful, beautiful return by Errol. And the crazy part about this is Errol Spence in his prime, and we still haven't seen the best Errol Spence yet. And the best is yet to come from Errol Spence. But kudos to Errol and kudos to Danny for going 12 rounds with the champ. But at the end of the day, this was a dominant, dominant return by Errol Spence. And one thing I will say, 2020 belongs to Derek James. I don't want nobody talking about any other trainers. This year belongs to Derek freaking James. Point blank, period.
He definitely the trainer of the year, and this was definitely the comeback of the year. But Danny Garcia, he did land few right hands in the 4th round, and you know the $1 million question was how Errol Spence is going to react. But like Errol Spence said, he wasn't worried about that because he was taking good punches in sparring, so he knew he was A-okay as far as taking a punch because he always showed that he had a great chin. But nevertheless, if you recall the fight. Obviously, Errol Spence dominated Danny Garcia, but I think the 7th or the 8th round, it seemed like we were heading the route of Mikey Garcia 2.0 because, you know, I don't know what's going on with the Garcias. Because the Garcias, the Garcias always see something in Errol, and, you know, Errol showed him why he's special, but Angel Garcia was very frustrated with Danny. He kept telling Danny, he gave Danny Garcia great instructions. He kept telling Danny Garcia, quit backing up. Errol Spence is on his P's and Q's on the front foot, so you got to back him up. You don't back up against a southpaw, especially not against a guy like Errol Spence. But obviously, Danny Garcia, one thing about Danny, he always execute the game plan, right? So in the 4th round, when his father was yelling at him, telling him what to do, he obviously executed. That's possibly one of the rounds that you could give to Danny. But also in that 8th or the 9th round, he told Danny Garcia the same thing. He was very frustrated because he started telling Danny Garcia, quit throwing, he only throwing pity-pat punches at you, which that's a sign of frustration because obviously Errol Spence wasn't throwing no pity-pat punches. You know, them punches had bad intentions on them. But obviously he wanted his son to pressure Errol Spence, but that's easier said than done because Danny is the one fighting, and that lets you know it ain't Danny Garcia wasn't able to back up Errol Spence because he was fighting Errol Spence. It was Errol Spence that was dictating the fight with his jab and his body work. He was going to the body like it was filled with candy, and that jab pretty much controlled Danny Garcia. But like I said, in the 8th or the 9th round, that's when Danny Garcia kind of had like his second win, and he came on strong because as soon as Errol Spence was on the verge of stopping Danny Garcia, and out of nowhere, Danny Garcia, he had his second win, and Errol Spence went from going 100 miles per hour to 70 miles per hour. To me, he ain't 100% yet. He 100% dedicated, but he ain't 100% yet. But like he said before the fight, at 70% Errol Spence still beats 100% Danny Garcia, which he displayed tonight. But again, like a guy like Manny Pacquiao, for example, you don't think he could capitalize on, the things that Danny Garcia capitalized on tonight with his combination and speed, or does style make fights? How you see that fight happening? Do you think Pacquiao saw something?
That is a beautiful, beautiful question, my brother AKHi. Manny Pacquiao is a veteran of the game. He's been there, he's done that, he's been in the ring with some of the greatest, including the youngsters. And he's proven that he can also hang in there with some of the young champions and defeating Keith Thurman, a prime Keith Thurman on top of that. Now, when it comes to Manny Pacquiao saying that he wants to exploit Errol Spence, I definitely deeply believe that he has no idea what he's talking about in this specific scenario, because Errol Spence is a different beast. I'm not downing Manny Pacquiao and all he's done for the sport of boxing. He is a legend, a future Hall of Famer, and one of the greatest boxers to ever live and set foot in the ring, point blank, period. But one thing is for sure. If those two were to meet in the ring for a unification fight for the WBA, IBF, and WBC welterweight championships of the world at 147, there is no doubt in my mind at 100%, Errol Spence will absolutely stop Manny Pacquiao.
Right. Now, and somebody in the chat, Greg, said, nah, Errol Spence started playing. Well, I mean, according to Errol Spence himself, he said that he gassed out. He felt tired during the later stages of the fight. That's why later stages. Yeah, so that's why, I said Errol Spence is not 100% yet. He 100% focused, but he's not 100% yet. And when it comes to Pacquiao, if Pacquiao chooses to fight Errol Spence, now Errol Spence is 100% back. Maybe his next fight, he's going to be 100% or near that percentage, maybe 90, 95%. So if Manny Pacquiao was going to capitalize on the moment, he would have fought Errol Spence tonight. But because obviously, I don't know why Manny Pacquiao didn't fight Errol Spence, because he never was interested in fighting Errol Spence. Errol Spence called him out when he beat Mikey Garcia in front of 47,000 fans, and Pacquiao chose to fight Keith Thurman instead. So obviously, skill recognized skills, and I'm pretty sure Manny Pacquiao knows how special Errol Spence is. But, I don't know how likely that fight is, because Manny, I'm hearing Conor McGregor, dream fight, so on and so forth. So I don't know how interested he will be in a Errol Spence, but if he does fight an Errol Spence, that will be a mega fight, because there is no other sport besides boxing that have fans attending the fights. We saw it against Gervonta, and now we're seeing it against Errol Spence. It was so many fans that attended a fight. Obviously, due to quarantine, they have to stay 6 feet apart with seats and stuff like that, but they still sold out. Did tremendous numbers. Therefore, if Manny Pacquiao want the biggest fight in the ring, not outside of the ring or like in a joint sport promotion with the UFC, if Pacquiao want to fight the biggest fight before retiring, I always say you're better off going out with a bang. So the best way to go out is to go out against Errol Spence. Wouldn't you say so?
I definitely agree with that 100%. That is a beautiful, beautiful take. I definitely believe that Manny Pacquiao, if he was smart, because it's honestly, it's freaking crazy you say that, to be honest with you, bro. And I'm gonna tell you why. The reason I say that is because Danny Garcia only took this fight because it was his last shot at a serious championship fight. He's now about to be the Gamboa of 147. He's 0-3 in big championship fights. He only took this fight because he was banking on the accident and banking on the fact that he would lose. He would be able to hurt Errol Spence to either the face, to either the jaw or to the temple with a straight right or his left hook. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because in the early stages of this fight, Danny Garcia was literally picking his punches, picking his shots. He hit Errol Spence in the first round with a clear-cut lead right hand. and pivoted off of it. That's his signature punch. That's one of his signature shots. I've seen him hit Lamont Peterson with it. I've seen him hit Brandon Rios with it. I've seen him hit some of the all-time greats with it, including Zab Judah with it. And Errol Spence got popped with it and walked him down the rest of that fight. When Danny Garcia realized in that first round at a fresh Danny Garcia that he couldn't hurt Errol Spence, he knew for a fact that Errol Spence right then and there was back. The truth was back, and that there was a big chance that he had to make some serious adjustments in order to even compete with Errol Spence, because the jab was destroying Garcia all night long. The jab was just, his jab is just so beautiful. The way he's able to pivot off his jab and use it off of angle movements and also land the left hand in sequences that is just, it's unbelievable how he came back in this return at 70% and is able to do the things that he's doing. And not only that, he's also still evolving even after the accident.
They don't call him
Errol Spence,
they don't call him man down for nothing. Danny Garcia found out real quick that he's up against the truth when he saw that, because like you said, you will think that will discourage a fighter, especially what Errol Spence been through. But that's what makes Errol Spence special. He dominated Danny Garcia with the jab. He outboxed him. And also, Danny just didn't have any answer for the inside game. But let me keep you on the line. I'll be right back with you if you don't mind. Let me pick up another call real quick.
I'm going to be up late.
Okay. All right. So I'll get back with you.
Yes, sir.
For sure. I'll be right back. We got a call from Texas, I believe. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
What's going on? This is John from Texas.
John, what's going on? So obviously for the people that's tuning in, the number is in the description box if you guys want to call in. And my man, so Sean Porter, he scored this fight in which he gave Danny Garcia 4 rounds, I believe. If I'm looking at the scorecard right now, Sean Porter, he gave Danny Garcia the 4th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th round. So do you agree with the scorecard? Sean Porter said that I saw 8 rounds to 4, one early run. Errol took 2 rounds off and then fought Danny Garcia then Danny Garcia stole the 10th round. He said that he not biased or anything like that. He congratulated Errol Spence. So what's your take on that scorecard? How did you score the fight? Do you agree with Sean Porter or not?
I kind of agree with Sean Porter, except I had him 3 rounds. I kind of gave Danny like I want to say the 9th and the 10th, and I don't know if it was the 5th also or the 6th.
So in total, how many rounds did you give Danny Garcia?
I gave Danny three rounds.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
what was your take on
those
the fight?
3 rounds?
Yeah,
those 3 rounds, I think, like the truth said in his before he had the fight, 70% him can beat Danny Garcia, and that's pretty much what I seen. I don't think that Earl was at 20%.
You mean 100%?
And the rounds I think he took, he was pretty much lacking off and getting a breather pretty much.
Right. Yeah, and obviously it seemed like he was going 100 miles per hour, and then out of nowhere he went 70 in the 9th round, and that's when Danny Garcia had his second win. Obviously Danny Garcia is a game opponent, and for Errol Spence to have a tune-up with him, Errol Spence deserves all the credit in the world. So as far as Sean Porter, he obviously looking at a Crawford fight, and also he's eyeing Errol Spence rematch. Which fight would you prefer for Sean Porter? Because he seemed to be more interested in an Errol Spence fight.
I kind of want to see him and Terrence Crawford, just because I haven't seen it. I want to see how that fight, the outcome of that, how Terrence Crawford reacts to Sean Porter, and what that fight looked like. Right. I think it'll kind of pretty much give an example of where Bud would stand fighting against some of the top tier fighters at PBC.
Right. Now, obviously, Sean Porter, he fought Danny Garcia. He fought nearly every welterweight but Terrence Crawford. That's why we want to see him against Terrence. Obviously, Errol Spence outperformed Sean Porter against Danny Garcia. He dominated Danny Garcia more than any of his previous opponents have. So knowing that, Errol Spence beat Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. Now, mind you, both Danny and Sean Porter fought for that WBC belt that was vacant. I think it was Keith Thurman belt, if I'm not mistaken. So Errol Spence already beat them both. I'd rather see Sean fight a Crawford, to be honest, because in my humble opinion, Errol Spence fought Sean Porter game and beat him at his own game when he was cutting corners, you know, not making weight and stuff like that. Obviously, we saw tonight that Errol Spence, even though he was 100% dedicated, he wasn't 100% because remember, when Errol Spence fought Sean Porter, I think 2 months before the fight, he was like 180, 190 pounds. And he still cut off the weight. He was fighting to make the weight. He stated that he was pretty much in training camp to make the weight instead of, you know, applying his strategy in order to execute fight night. And he still managed to fight Sean Porter at his own game, go toe-to-toe in a classic fight in which he won, in my book, 8-4. You know, he managed to drop Sean Porter as well. So knowing that and the fact that Errol Spence is obviously more dedicated now, we saw against Danny Garcia that he's not 100% because even when Errol Spence was cutting corners, he don't gas out. You don't normally see Errol Spence gas out, let alone admit. That's true. He admitted. Yeah, he even admitted that he gassed out. You know what I mean? One thing to gas out is another to admit. So obviously the ring rust definitely had an effect on him. So I would prefer to see Errol Spence versus Ugas Keith and Sean versus Terrence Crawford. What's your take on all of the above?
Yeah, I heard you say like you think you would rather see him take another tune-up fight pretty much at a top-tier fighter. I kind of think like this was his tune-up fight. So like I think he would be ready. Like this fight just let him know that like he still got work to do. He got to get in shape if he want to fight Terrence Crawford. I think that he instead of like going after Keith Thurman or Ugas, I really think he's gonna go where the money at. And I think it's gonna be either Pacquiao or Terrence Crawford.
Right. Now I could see Pacquiao. Yeah, I see Pacquiao all day. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But Terrence Crawford, the reason why I don't want to see that next, because I'd rather see an Errol Spence that's 100% in the ring first before I see that. Because, like I said, he wasn't 100% tonight. You clearly see him gassing out and stuff like that. The 100% Errol Spence could have possibly stopped Danny, but nevertheless, I think it will be wise for him to take another tune-up. And I mean, when I say a tune-up, it's not really a tune-up. It's a fight against another A-level opponent. So it's really not a tune-up in my book, you know. But nevertheless, you know, because Crawford is a bad boy, man. You know, Crawford, you don't want to go in that ring with Crawford if you're not 100% or you still thinking and debating. Oh, I don't know if I'm 100% or not. Nah, you need to have them questions answered before you go into a fight like that, because Crawford is a different beast. He a different animal, you know, because remember with him and Errol when Crawford fought Kell Brook, you could see him. He beat fighters different ways. He outsmarted Kell Brook and knocked him out quick. So you don't want to gas out against Crawford. In other words, because that will be a disaster for Errol Spence.
That's pretty much why I want to see Crawford fight Porter, because true enough, I give Crawford his credit. He did what he was supposed to do against Kell Brook and like in impressive fashion. He like handled his business. But at this point in Kell Brook's career, I think he on the downslide. And Porter's pretty much maintaining his stamina in as far as among welterweight.
Who's on the downslide?
I want to see Kell Brook.
Oh, Kell Brook. Yeah.
I thought you said
Crawford.
I think. I think Kell Brook is on the decline.
Yeah, Remy only. I think Crawford got to fight a top guy before Errol Spence. He don't gotta, but if Errol Spence is not next, he obviously got to stay busy. So the best way to stay busy is to take care of his mandatory Sean Porter, and Errol Spence. He could possibly fight another champion, or like like Ugas Pacquiao, or a name opponent like Keith?
Yes, yeah, I agree with. I kind of agree with that. I want to see him against, like, everybody you put in front of Terrence Crawford. He did what he was supposed to do to him. He took care of business and got him away. But I want to see him fight a top tier welterweight in his division and then see. Yeah, because as far as the eye test, he passes the eye test. But a lot of people, his knock is his resume at 147. That's been his knock. So like, I want him I want him to fight the Keith Thurmans and the Sean Porters, because both Errol Spence and Crawford both has defended their title 5 times each. Except the competition is way stiff on PBC. So
yeah, I mean,
I want to see like
Crawford still got a solid resume at 147. I mean, the Benavidez of the world, the Kell Brooks, and the guys he fought, they still good names, even Jeff Horns, but they just don't compare to the level of opposition Errol Spence have faced, like the Sean Porters and even the Danny Garcias of the world. So obviously, it ain't like Crawford got a weak resume. It's solid. It just doesn't compare to an Errol Spence, because Errol Spence fought the top level guys. And if he gets Keith, I mean, that's back-to-back elite level fighters. We're talking about the deepest division in boxing, you know what I mean? So that's definitely no joke. And it will build the fight. If Crawford could get a Porter fight or a name opponent at 147, it will build the fight further. And in my humble opinion, we possibly one fight removed from Errol Spence versus Crawford.
I believe that also. I think Errol Spence is going to fight Pacquiao, and more than likely Crawford's going to fight somebody else on PBC that's really either Porter or Thurman. I'll be upset if he try to fight Garcia. But,
right. Yeah.
Hopefully, like he fights one of these top tiers over here on PBC.
Yeah. Well, after what Errol Spence did to Danny Garcia, I think that would be the last resort, if I'm being honest with you. But is there anything else you want to say before I pick up another call?
No, that's good, man. You take care.
I appreciate it, my man. My man from Texas. Then we got another call from Texas. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is, and where you calling from?
Oh, this is Jules of Life, man.
Jules of Life.
Changed. I lost. Yeah.
Jules of Life, man. Your voice sounds a little harsh, man. Did you lose on the fight tonight? Did you bet on the fight tonight?
I don't bet, man.
I got you. So
I'm a religious guy like you.
That's what's up.
I'm just not a Muslim. I'm an Israelite. We can't bet.
Oh, okay.
It's against our beliefs.
Yes, sir. So let me get your take on this. Crawford, obviously, it was good to see Crawford in attendance for the Errol Spence fight. He obviously been asked in the past, do you need an Errol Spence fight? He said, he needs me. I don't need him. Then Errol Spence responded with, well, keep my name out your mouth. So I think Crawford now, he being smart about approaching the Errol Spence fight, even in the media. Now, Crawford, he tweeted, Danny tired during the fight, which, obviously he seemed like he was tired, but then Errol Spence, he got out a little late himself. And then he threw in, smiley emojis after the fight. He obviously thinks that he saw something in Errol Spence. So what's your take on, this fight in particular? When is the most realistic? Do you want to see the fight next, or would you rather see the fight build first? I mean, not built, but see Errol Spence in the ring with another top level fighter at the welterweight division to make sure he 100% before the fight of the decade?
Here's my thing. Here's what I like to see in my fantasy world. I would like to see Manny Pacquiao. As much as I love Manny Pacquiao was a person in 2007. I was sitting down, I was bored, I was flipping through the channels. I seen Manny Pacquiao. I seen him throw like a right hook or a jab. I was like, wait a minute, did I just see a boxing match? And I clicked back, And then I watched it, and it was just, I don't even remember which fight it was. I just know I watched it because I watched a very good percentage of Manny Pacquiao's fight. Long story short, he's the guy that brought me and got me back interested in boxing. I wasn't interested in the boxing since I was a kid watching Mike Tyson. So, yeah, I got a great love and respect and admiration. He's a humanitarian, all that good stuff. There's nothing bad to say about Manny Pacquiao, except one thing. He's a Spence ducker. That's it. And besides him ducking Spence, I have no problem with Manny Pacquiao at all. But
what about Pacquiao? Don't you feel he did the same thing to Crawford though when he was with Top Rank? I mean, Crawford.
Yeah, he did. He did. I was actually going to say that next. That was my next topic. That was my next thing I was going to say. But yeah, anyways, he ducked both not Crawford but Spence, but he mainly ducked Spence because Spence called him in the ring when he fought Mikey Garcia, as we all know. And he, for 2 days, he acted like he was going to fight, and then he said, well, he couldn't even beat a lightweight or whatever weight Mikey Garcia is at 140.
2 minutes, not 2 days. He thought about it in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying his response was 2 days, not his thought.
Right.
Because he was nervous, and he was so nervous when he got called in that ring. He was, everyone knows how he talked. But anyways, yeah, man, it's the thing that I would like to see. I would like to see him fight Manny Pacquiao because he fights Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is, we all know Manny Pacquiao. He's a grandpa in the sport. He's done. He did everything he can do to give his heart and soul to boxing, and we all love him for it. But at the same time, Errol Spence is barely coming off this car accident, and as great as Errol Spence looked, Errol Spence versus Sean Porter, if that Errol Spence had to fight this Danny Garcia, he would have got washed. He would have got spanked because the type of fighter that Sean Porter is nonstop pressure. The type of fighter that Errol Spence is nonstop pressure. But the problem with Errol Spence tonight is he didn't have his normal amount of stamina. To see his stamina gauge, I can see him fatiguing. And people were saying, "Oh,
who would have got washed when he made that comment?"
If Danny Garcia had to fight Errol Spence Jr. from September 26th, he would have got washed.
Oh, okay.
When he fought Sean Porter, he would have got washed. If he had to basically say, you know what, if your fight's been canceled, Sean Porter, me, Danny Garcia, I'm gonna fight. What would end up happening is he would have got up and he would have got out and you show the paper, you get out, I'm about to fight. He came suited up, they get in the ring, fight. Danny Garcia would have got washed by that version of Errol Spence. I think that version of Errol Spence would have actually knocked out Danny Garcia. I've been saying this all year. I've been on countless lives, and I know I haven't been on here for months, but I said January to April or something like that. I've been saying this about Danny Garcia. When it comes to Errol Spence Jr., he's not going to be able to beat him. He doesn't have as much power as everyone says. Yes, he's a physically strong guy. We can all see that. But he doesn't have the knockout power that everyone says he does. Not in the welterweight division. Maybe the 140, maybe the super lightweight division, but not the welterweight division. He just doesn't have the power. And people, they overhype and they overrate his power all the time. They overrate his skills. Yes, you're very skilled. Yes, you're one of the best at the division. But at the same time, every time you fight the best at the division, you lose. You take L's. It don't matter about none of those accolades from the past. We're talking about this Danny Garcia now is very overrated in my opinion. And I like Danny Garcia. I give him a lot of credit for fighting Errol Spence, but he didn't look good tonight, man. He didn't.
Right.
And the thing that makes it worse is this is Errol Spence coming off of a car crash, hasn't fought in a year, and he gave you the worst L. What does that say for Errol Spence?
The truth. That's what it says. I mean, at the end of the day, Danny was a game opponent. However, Errol Spence is just on a different level. He said prior to the fight, a 70% me will still be 100% Danny Garcia, and he proved it tonight. Like I said, this fight was on the verge of being Mikey Garcia 2.0, but yeah, the fact that he was rusty, the fact that the layoff and the car accident caught up to him late, you could see the shift in the fight because Errol Spence was he gassed out. When usually with Errol Spence, he gets stronger as the fight go on. Remember with Kell Brook, he got stronger. He stopped Kell Brook. With Sean Porter, he dropped Sean Porter in the 11th round. So one thing about Errol Spence, he always gets stronger as the fight goes on. We saw it with Mikey and everybody. But with Danny, it was the other way around. And Danny didn't do anything. I mean, prior to the round that Danny Garcia won, I think it was the 9th or the 10th round, Errol Spence was literally, punishing him, to say the least. And out of nowhere, we saw a shift, even though Danny didn't do anything. That's why I said it was more of Errol Spence, because the fact that it seemed like the ring rust affected him a little bit. But that's why I said another tune-up fight will be wise before taking a Crawford fight. But with that being said, is that everything you got to say? You got something else you want to say before I pick up another call?
Yeah. I'm going to say this last thing. I'm going to be out. Yeah, man, as far as it goes, man, you can't take anything away from Danny Garcia, but Danny Garcia, he's not as great as everybody says. He's very good. He's a champion, but people overhyped him. The Ivan Redkach thing, that the last fight he had, it should have showed everybody where he's at in the division. He can't beat champion level fighters. I'm sorry, Danny, you can't beat champion level fighters. He needs to change. I disagree with whoever says that he needs to keep his dad in his corner. His dad knows what to do, but his dad does not know how to bring him up to a higher level, and that's his problem. So yeah. I appreciate the time, Aki. Yeah. You have a good night. All right. God bless you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it for the call. Yeah, I mean, I think Danny Garcia is a good fighter, but there's levels to this. He always rise to the occasion. I think Danny Garcia, one of them fighters that fight to his level. And when it came to stepping up, he always step up, but he falls short. That's the problem with Danny Garcia. He always seemed to fall short whenever he step up. But nevertheless, I think it was more of what Errol Spence did than Danny. Because, see, remember, Danny, when he fought Mathise, that was a supposedly a beast. And Mathise was just knocking out people left or right. He knocked out Lamar Pearson when Lamar Pearson was at the top. And he knocked him out and watched him like no one else did. And Danny beat Mathise. But I just think it's all credit to Errol Spence. I just think Errol Spence is just on a different level than a lot of these cats. But let me go ahead and pick up another call. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
This is Leon calling from Los Angeles, California.
Leon. So like I said, my Joseph life, he kind of digressed from Crawford, fight, but obviously Crawford was in attendance tonight. It was good to see Crawford in a PBC card, showing his face and stuff like that. He said that he felt like Danny Garcia gassed out or he was tired during the later stages of the fight, and Errol Spence also seemed to have the same issue due to the layoff. But then he threw in smiling emojis after the fight. He's been calling for this fight for the longest. So what's your take on the Crawford versus Errol Spence fight? The Errol Spence you saw tonight, how do you see Errol Spence fare against Crawford, who's pound for pound number one? I think, in my humble opinion, with the win Errol Spence pulled off tonight, he's pound for pound number two in my book. So how you see that fight playing now with the version we saw tonight against Danny Garcia?
I actually see it working out very well for Errol, but there's a couple of things. So you can see in the 9th and 10th round, I totally agree with you. He did gas out in the 9th and 10th round, and he knew he gassed out, and he admitted that he gassed out in the post-fight press conference. But I think that's more of him also not fighting for a year and a half.
Right.
So you use this fight. He also said during the fight, at the end of the fight, if you watched him talk, he said this was his tune-up fight. So to me, that was his tune-up fight right there. He doesn't need another tune-up fight. I think he can go into that fight with Terrence Crawford with no problem. So if we take the politics out of it, because there's a couple of things I see wrong with some of the things that Terrence Crawford has been saying and doing, but if we just take all of that, move that all out to the side, the only problem I have with Terrence Crawford is the level of competition at the welterweight division. So he has yet to be tested, even if we call these even if we call his opponent so-called solid opponents, I have yet to see him get tested where he feels like, okay, this is going to be a fight, a 12-round fight. And until he gets tested, we really don't know who Terrence Crawford really is.
Well,
So,
in my humble opinion,
I mean,
I think I know who Terrence is. I think he the truth, just like Errol. I think he got a solid resume at 147, but when you do compare him to an Errol Spence, there's no comparison because Errol Spence is fighting what we call the golden era of our time, the best fighters in his division, which is the deepest division in boxing, from Sean to Danny to Kell Brook. But, you know, Crawford just fought a Kell Brook, and Kell Brook was looking good early on in that fight, and Crawford took care of business. So one thing about Crawford, you know, the fact that he want to fight Errol Spence, and he been wanting to fight Errol Spence from the jump as soon as he moved up to the division, I always paid him high respect for that, because while Errol Spence was the boogeyman, the only fighter that was willing to step up to the table was Crawford. Obviously, business came in between, and obviously, you know, that's a whole different conversation. But, you know, Crawford was always willing to fight an Errol Spence, so I always respected him for that. And one thing about Crawford, he's a very tricky fighter. Even though he's supposedly a boxer, he's pound for pound one of the hardest hitters as well. And, you know, he's good off that orthodox stand, but when he does go southpaw, that man turned to Super Saiyan, because I don't know what it is when he goes southpaw. He just solves his opponent and put it together like puzzle every single time. But against Errol Spence, who's pound for pound number 2, right behind Crawford,
ain't gonna make a difference.
Yeah. That southpaw. See, that's when I really want to see what Crawford is gonna do, what kind of adjustments he's gonna make, because now he's not fighting an orthodox fighter. Now he's fighting another southpaw. And I always been one of the believers, you know, Crawford could fight from both stands, but I think his P's and Q's is really the southpaw position. And that's how he frustrates a lot of fighters. So I really want to see how that fight is going to play out. But as far as the comment you made, you think Errol Spence is ready now? All I'm going to say to that is, one thing for sure, Errol Spence wasn't 100% tonight. So because of that, you know, obviously this was his tune-up fight, even though an A-class level fighter is never a tune-up. But when we talk about the truth, obviously he holds himself to different standards. But another tune-up against another A-level fighter will be wise, in my opinion, to see him. You know, I want to see him 100% in the ring first, because if it wasn't, you know, like if we're going to call for Errol Spence versus Crawford, when we know that's the fight of the decade, I want to see Errol Spence at 100% before making that decision, because obviously Crawford is not your average Joe. He's just not another A-level fighter. He's an elite fighter. So like Crawford said, you know, out of his own mouth, when Errol Spence had the car accident, he said he don't want to fight Errol Spence till he's 100%. We all know he wasn't 100% tonight. So I'd rather see Errol Spence 100% before making the fight. And like you said, you feel like, you know, Crawford haven't faced the elite level fighters at 147. So I think that will give us time to see Errol Spence back 100% against another A-level fighter like a Keith or Ugas, even a Pacquiao. On the other hand, it will give Crawford the opportunity to fight an A-level fighter at 147 like a Sean Porter, who supposedly is mandatory right now. And then that could set up a mega fight later on 2021. And that could also resolve the issue, because the business that we don't want to talk about is obviously Crawford is still with Top Rank. He's still with Top Rank. He have a couple more months to go. Therefore, that will resolve that issue as well.
That's not even the only thing, though. Yeah, that's not even the only thing. I mean, a couple of things. So, you know, we all know that Sean is now the mandatory, but he's already said out his mouth that he don't want to fight Sean. Bomac said out of his mouth that he don't want him to fight Sean Porter because it don't prove nothing and they don't got no belt. So that's not even politics. That's your own manager telling you that you only want to fight him. So that's one problem. The second problem I got is, well, three problems. So the second problem I got is just I don't like how he defensively, how he gets hit in these fights that are from these B- C+ opponents. It might be because he's complacent because he knows he's going to win, or it might be because his defense just ain't that good. But I'm not happy when I watch his defense against C-level B- opponents. Because in my mind, to be as pound for pound as you are, you shouldn't be getting questionably knocked down by green beans or whatever his name, I can't remember his name, whatever name I use for that dude. You shouldn't be getting hit by these opponents in my mind. Kell Brook, you shouldn't have to switch to southpaw. It's nice that you did it, but you shouldn't have to switch to southpaw to be able to deal with him because he's keeping you up with the jab the whole time. It's a good strategy to get out of it to be able to combat it. But those are some of the issues I have defensively, which is why I would, to your point, I would rather more see him get a tune-up fight for Errol than Errol get a tune-up fight for him. And by a tune-up fight for Bud, I mean like a Sean Porter to be like, okay, this is going to be a great fight. Like you said, build the fight up. Right now, I'm worried defensively, can he handle that?
I don't know if I'll be worried about Crawford. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be okay. Well, go ahead and make your last comment. Yeah, because I want to respond to all of it.
But I mean, until I see it, I can't really say anything. That's the problem.
What's the last
thing?
It's like
seeing Jerron. It's like seeing Jerron Ennis against all these C-level fighters. You're gonna be like, yeah, he's awesome, but you ain't seen him against Bud Crawford or Errol Spence. So you don't know.
But Jerron Ennis haven't fought no Benavidez, no Jeff Horns, and I wouldn't call the level of opposition. I wouldn't call the level of opposition.
I agree with you 100%.
But yeah, make your last comment
because
I want to count your problems. Oh, okay. I want you to mention the last problem before I respond.
The last issue is just the whole Bob Arum issue and the whole fact of I'm sure you heard him talk. I think it was Miss Boxing. I can't remember who it is. Where Terrence Crawford out of his own mouth said, "I'm not doing 60-40. In fact, I might barely even do 50-50. And if I do 60-40, it's going to be in my direction and all that stuff, man." To this point, man, it feels like a cash out situation. Like I'm just trying to cash out, which is what I don't want to feel about it. But I'm starting to feel that way because to me, I would think just take the 60-40. You were undefeated at 140, but you're not at 147. Your boy Floyd took 70-30 when Oscar De La Hoya. Just take the 60-40, bomb on Errol Spence like everybody thinks you will, and then you're going to be 60-40 with a rematch or whatever. I don't understand why it's becoming this big issue. Just do it, and then we can see it.
Right. So, okay, just help, refresh my memory. What was the first problem? Because I want to start off with that. Refresh my memory. What was the first problem?
I think the first problem was when Bomac was saying as a manager that he shouldn't fight Porter because Porter don't got no belt.
Right. Well, I already
and it's not gonna prove nothing if he beat him.
Right. So I interviewed Crawford, one of his homeboys, one of his team, and he told me that if Sean Porter pressed the issue and he activate the mandatory position, Crawford will fight him. Because it's all fun and games. It's all, Sean Porter could talk the talk, but he's a mandatory now. He don't gotta ask for the fight. He don't gotta beg for the fight. All he gotta do is activate the mandatory position because Terrence Crawford mandatory is due soon. So if Sean Porter does activate his mandatory position, he will get the fight. So you best believe this. Terrence Crawford will not vacate the WBO belt. He ain't on no Canelo shit. He ain't on no Lomachenko stuff.
I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah, he would not vacate the belt. So he will fight Sean if Sean press the issue and activate the mandatory position. But obviously, Sean is more interested in the Errol Spence rematch than a Terrence Crawford. But I'd rather see Sean against a Crawford than a guy like Errol
that's
Spence.
Not what he said at the fight, right? Sean. Now, like you said, it's all fun and games. But after the fight, in the post fight, when Sean Porter was talking, he was saying he wants the Terrence Crawford fight.
That's what I'm talking about.
He wants the Errol Spence fight.
Okay, well, thank you for informing me on that.
To your point, he activates the mandatory. Yeah.
And there's nothing stopping him. There's nothing stopping him but himself because he could activate his mandatory position and get the fight. And I could guarantee you he will get the fight if he does activate the mandatory position, right? So that's not an issue when it comes to that. Now, the second thing is, I believe the second issue, you think Crawford, you'd be more worried about. Okay, yeah, you said you'd be more worried about Crawford than Errol Spence because of his defense, so on and so forth. I think Crawford against a guy like Mean Machine, he went toe to toe. He was doing 50-50 exchanges because obviously he wanted to get Mean Machine out of there. He didn't think Mean Machine was on his level. However, he won't fight Errol Spence like that. He didn't even fight Kell Brook like that. He was way more cautious. And when Crawford want to be defensively minded, he's very sharp defensively. So, you know, I know you said that you don't think it was impressive. You think you said, why did he have to switch southpaw to beat a Kell Brook? But I found that very impressive because Kell Brook was super sharp early on. And as soon as Crawford made the switch, it was all downhill from there for Kell Brook. I mean, the way he stopped him, and we know one thing about Kell Brook, he have an iron chin, and he stopped him pretty much with a jab. And obviously, it wasn't the jab that knocked him out, but that's what got him to the position to get knocked out. So I think Crawford, he got a solid resume at 147. He don't compete with Errol Spence at all, but Crawford fought in 3 different divisions. Crawford fought the best at 135, moved up to 140. He fought who he had to beat at that division to become undisputed. Now he's trying to do the same thing at 147. So I can't knock him off for that because he wants to fight the baddest man on the planet, or at least one of the baddest men on the planet, Errol Spence. So I'd be more worried for Errol Spence right now because he's not 100%. There's no question Crawford is at the peak of his prime. He at his best right now. So it'd be wise for Errol to take a tune-up because Crawford, he wants to fight now, right? But obviously, there's a lot of things that come into play, like you pointed out, the business issue with Bob Arum. See, when it comes to Bob Arum and Crawford claiming that he wants 60-40 split, that's just all leverage talk. That's just him, want to stand his ground because when he goes into negotiations, he don't want to, admit to the public or agree to the public that he's willing to take a 50-50 split, because now as soon as you go into negotiations, you're already at the 50% spot. You can't even negotiate because you already said to the public that you're willing to take a 50-50 split. That's why he said he wanted 60-40.
But do you think if that was, let me ask you a quick question.
But I don't doubt that
was the case.
Yeah, but I don't doubt he wanted to fight.
I believe that he wants to fight too. I'm not so much worried about whether he wants to fight or not. Like I said, my thing is, well, let me ask this question first. So this is why I kind of believe the words that are coming out of Terrence Crawford's mouth, because Terrence Crawford has said this, Bomac has said it. Bob Arum has said something about not being able to pay, everything that he said. But my whole thing is that there's also I almost forgot what I was saying.
Well, his contract is almost up. Yeah, well, his contract is almost up.
Negotiations.
Yeah,
and we know he resigned when he shouldn't have resigned because he believed that somehow with no welterweights over there, he was going to be able to fight the welterweight and all that foolishness. But this is the problem I have. So at one point, when Terrence Crawford was a fight, nobody had decided to fight for Kell Brook. This is the problem that I have with his whole negotiation stance. I believe he's hard set and stubborn in his ideas because when your boy, what's the good dude name with the ponytail? One time Thurman said, when he said, I'll fight you after his loss, he said, I'll fight you, Terrence Crawford. And he was like, 10 million. We all know that's just the starting point. But instead, he said, Bomac even said this as well, why I'm going to fight him? He don't got no belt. But then he goes and fights Kell Brook. He didn't even negotiate with one time. So that's why I kind of wonder, like, are you sure that he does negotiate? Because it seems like he gives you hard and fast lines and then says, no, forget it.
Well, I think Bomac, he be speaking out of pocket. I think Bomac, when he talked to the public, he'd be more trash talking than actually talking facts. Because remember, he even said Errol Spence is living from paycheck to paycheck when Errol Spence was making more money than Crawford himself. So I don't take what Bomac says literally. One thing for sure, I stick to the facts, which Crawford, remember, when he first came to the welterweight division, when he fought Jeff Horn, the first person he called out was actually Keith Thurman. It wasn't even Errol Spence. He said he want Keith Thurman. Right. That's the fight he want. And remember, Keith Thurman at the time right before the Pacquiao fight, he said, "I'm not interested in Crawford." He said Crawford got to prove himself. Who have he fought? He need to fight. He said he need to fight Jeff Horn. He need to fight Amir Khan. He need to fight Kell Brook. He was being Crawford manager, right? So, and Crawford actually fought the same guys he named to prove that, oh, okay, well, you want me to fight those guys? He fought those guys. So he only could fight the people that's available for him. I don't agree with his business decision to stick with Top Rank. I actually, you know, I dropped multiple videos where I criticized them for sticking with Top Rank when all the welterweights are with PBC. However, so he remained loyal to an entity that's not being loyal to him. But it's a different conversation for a different day. But one thing for sure, it was Keith Thurman that didn't want the fight, because remember, I'm not going to mention the offer they sent Keith, because Keith had a better offer, which is a Pacquiao fight. So you can't criticize Keith for taking the Pacquiao fight, you know, instead of the Crawford fight, because it was more lucrative for him to fight Pacquiao. But nevertheless,
this was also after the Pacquiao fight, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm mentioning the things prior to the Pacquiao fight. So when Keith was still a champion, when he had belts, because Crawford was interested in the champions, Crawford called him out. Keith was not interested. He said he needed to prove himself. He needed to do this. He needed to do that. Remember, Danny Garcia didn't have to prove himself. Keith said he's going to welcome Danny Garcia to the division, but he didn't have that same energy for Terrence Crawford, even though Crawford was higher on the pound-for-pound list. He was arguably pound-for-pound #1 at the time, and Keith was still not paying attention to Crawford at all. Matter of fact, he brushed him off, right? So it wasn't until
looking for Floyd or what's it called.
Yeah. And you remember the same energy he had for Floyd, don't duck the sun, and all the above. But when it came to Errol, when it came to Errol and Crawford, he definitely changed his energy, different. Right? And you know, it wasn't until he lost, you see him even calling out Errol Spence. I mean, he started calling out Errol Spence heavy. So you got to be mindful. That's why he got nothing to lose.
That's my point, though.
Yeah, he got nothing to lose at this
point.
That's
my point, though. Why not at that point then say, you know, for the longest time you've been ducking me one time, I'll go ahead and take this fight over a Kell Brook fight, because you was going to get way more respect. Because one time that just came off a loss where it was even considered a split decision against Manny Pacquiao, he would have got way more respect fighting him. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, let me respond to that. Well, I think, look, this is my personal opinion. I think Crawford even said it. Errol Spence said, forget Keith. He didn't want to give me the opportunity when he was a champion. So tables turn. I'm not going to give him the opportunity either. I think that's how Crawford felt as well. Matter of fact, he even stated it. The difference, though, Errol actually have name opponents to fight. Crawford
That's what
really
I'm saying.
doesn't.
Like, if you don't have a named opponent, why not just take it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To get you a named opponent.
Right. But the only difference is Keith Thurman asked for $10 million. Now, obviously, why not go to negotiations?
You can negotiate that.
That's what I talked about. Yeah, you could go in negotiations. But with the budget Bob Arum was talking about, he was trying to pay Kell Brook $1.5 million. You know, Keith ain't gonna take no $1.5 million. See, Keith want to get paid now. You know, don't get it twisted. He gonna fight Crawford.
That could possibly be a pay-per-view fight, though.
Right. He could fight Crawford. He willing to fight Crawford now. He willing to fight Errol Spence, but he want to get paid. He ain't taking no less than $5 million. If Amir Khan got paid $5 million guaranteed, he ain't gonna take less than that. And that's what Bob Arum was not offering that on the table.
But that's a Bob Arum problem.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though. That's not a Crawford problem, because Kell Brook really wanted the fight so bad. He really felt like he could beat Crawford that he took the offer for $2 million. You know, they were negotiating 1.5 and they raised it to $2 million.
If that's the case,
I can't criticize them for that.
But if that's the case, why doesn't, regardless of what Bob Arum does, why doesn't Terrence go, hey man, look, we can fight for whatever? And then at that point, when something happens, be like, look, I don't know what happened. Business deal got crazy. I was willing to fight him. I don't know what's up with Bob Arum, but instead, you hear from Bomac, his manager, and you hear from other folks just saying, no, I'm not taking that fight because he asked for $10 million. Why not? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's when it comes to, you know, when you talk to the public, when you talk to the media, you got to be politically correct. And I don't think he's the best guy at that. He's honest, and he gave his honest take. He said, man, Keith, Porter, when they had titles, they never mentioned my name. Even Porter, you know, Porter, Porter never, man, I never heard Porter say anything about Crawford. And until he lost to Errol Spence, now he really aggressively calling out Terrence because now
his best friend.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. That's what I'm saying. It's an opportunity. So I can't criticize Crawford
but it's
for the things.
Terrence Crawford too. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It still could happen. That's what I'm saying. Sean could still make it happen by activating his mandatory position. But again, Keith and Sean Porter was in the same shoe. Keith was not interested in fighting Errol Spence. He said he cool with the second best. He's cool with being the second best at welterweight. He didn't want to fight Crawford too. Sean Porter, remember, when Errol Spence had a title, he just beat Kell Brook. He came to the United States. He came back to the United States after defeating the guy who defeated Sean Porter. He told Sean Porter, "I give you an opportunity." Matter of fact, he hopped in the ring and called out Sean Porter. And Sean Porter kept saying, anything and everything, but we're going to fight next.
Mm-hmm.
He fought him eventually, but that's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you last question. I'm going to get off the phone because I know you got other callers.
Right.
The whole Bud Crawford. Man, I don't know. Look, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the conversation. Hopefully this fight get made. Right. I don't know if it ever will, but hopefully it does.
But let me say
but
this.
I appreciate you.
Right. I appreciate you too, my brother, for calling in. But let me say this last to you. One thing for sure, all these issues going to get resolved in the few upcoming months because now we know Bob Arum, he's shitting on his own fighter instead of promoting his own fighter.
I just remembered my question.
Right. But let me read the super chat before you ask it. 773 Bob Arum is the pound for pound king over Bud. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like now it'd be unwise. Now it really be unwise for Crawford to stick with Top Rank, knowing what they all about, knowing they only interested in the fighters on the hope list. They will give Tyson Fury the bag.
Gonna resign, bro.
Yeah, they will give Tyson Fury.
You saw all the things he said.
No, I think he's just being smart. Remember, he can't say too much.
I know.
Man, if he says too much, he's gonna end up robbed. Man, he could end up robbing him. Ain't no telling. You know how boxing is. It's the wild, wild west. You got to be politically correct. At the end of the day, people forget that Terrence Crawford is on the coincidental list. He can't do too much. So he got to play the game. Jay-Z always says you got to know how to move in a room full of vultures. And I think Bob Arum, when Floyd Mayweather left him, Oscar De La Hoya left him, Mikey Garcia, Ruiz, all these fighters are leaving him. I don't know. Maybe he put on the contract that, hey, if you leave, you can't leave. Ain't no telling how the contract go. So the fact that the contract is about to be up, so Crawford could have, I don't know, maybe fight a Sean Porter.
News after you get finished. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I hope it ain't too bad. I hope it ain't no Crawford saying that he about to resign or nothing. But yeah. So if he gonna resign to Top Rank, at least I'm expecting him to resign for $100 million contract. Now, if that's the case, I'll be like, okay, I understand. But if you're not gonna get the bag, obviously, I see Crawford moving on, to be honest with you. The way that things are playing out, Al Heyman is waiting to actually sign Crawford, from what I'm seeing, the way things are going with Bob Arum, because even Bob Arum came out and pretty much said he felt like Crawford betrayed him by announcing that the fact that his contract is about to be up. The reason why Bob is mad, now Al Heyman is like, I don't got to make the fight with Errol Spence anytime soon, because now Crawford is about to leave. His contract about to be up. I could sign him and keep all the money in the house instead of doing joint promotion and splitting the revenue. That's why I said I don't see the fight happening next for multiple reasons: business reasons, networks reasons, and more importantly, I think even Errol Spence, it will be wise for him to take another tune-up to be 100% against his next opponent, then fight a Crawford. Because when you fight the pound for pound number one, when you got pound for pound number one fighting pound for pound number two, we're not talking about number one and number two in the division. We're talking about number one and number two in boxing. So you don't want to go into that fight with a couple question marks. You want to answer all the questions and go to that fight 100%. But let me read the super chat before I get your last take. Alexander, Top Rank is where boxers' careers go to die. Yeah, their careers die for real. I mean, we see it every single time. That's why Floyd Mayweather, he said, I don't understand why Crawford's still with Top Rank. So we'll see if he does the right thing.
And that's my point about the whole, like, I know you believe he's going to, I'm going to go into my question. This is the last comment. I know you believe he's going to resign, but based off of history. You look at the whole history of Terrence Crawford, There is nothing there. Plus, with his comments about Bob just being Bob and Bomac saying Bob just being Bob, everything's leaning to them resigning right back in. I know you saying that ain't nothing
Why
gonna
you
happen,
say
but
that?
if you look at the previous history where he had an opportunity to fight with all the welterweights, and he decided to say that I'm gonna get a better bag with Bob Arum, even though he knew the history, or maybe he didn't know the history of Floyd, or maybe he didn't know the history of De La Hoya, or maybe he didn't know the history of Cotto. But if he knew that history and then still signed with him, based off that history and stayed with him, that's why I'm just kind of like, I don't, if you're making bad deals in the beginning and you ain't learned and you had the opportunity to resign and do something better and you do it again, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. You know what I'm saying? At that point, I'm like,
I think he's not business savvy. I don't think he's business savvy.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, when he signed with Top Rank, from what he said prior, he was like, you know, fights could still get made because you see Wilder fighting Fury, and he was mentioning the fact, I'd rather be the face of a network like ESPN than just being another fighter on PBC. But what he did not realize that Wilder had no other choice. He had no other opponent. So he had to, you know, they had to make the Fury fight. You know what I mean? But PBC got options with Errol Spence. PBC got options with all their welterweights. And also, like, it's one thing to be the face of the network like ESPN, but it's another if you're a fighter on the coincidental list. You will never be the face of the network because they got Lomachenko. They erasing his losses. They will praise Tyson Fury, do 4 documentaries on him. Regardless, with all this promotion, they could still flop, and they will turn around and say the guy that's doing numbers, the highest numbers on ESPN with little to no promotion, Crawford, they losing money on him. But not, but not with Tyson Fury or Lomachenko. A guy like Lomachenko can't even talk English, but you don't see Bob criticizing him the way he criticized Crawford. You don't see Bob criticizing Tyson Fury the way he criticized Crawford. So if he don't see it at this point, man, shit. I mean, you can't be Stevie Wonder in 2020 when you're blessed with having a vision. So I'm really banking on Crawford to make the right decision. So we'll see. So what's your take before I pick up other calls? Because I got a lot of people on the line.
Last question. This is so the last thing about Terrence Crawford, I'm gonna leave this alone, but Terrence Crawford said at one point, because I know you said your boy or his boy told you over the phone that he's willing to fight Porter, but I always also believe what a fighter says. And if a fighter in an interview says, I'm fighting Spence or I'm fighting Pacquiao, and if I don't get neither one of them fights, I'm just not going to fight. And he said that. I think that's also the myth about Canada.
Well, he fought Kell Brooks, so we know that's not true.
No, I'm talking about this is after. This is like a couple of weeks ago. I can send you the link so you can see it. Where he literally said, I'm either fighting, I either want to fight Spence or I want to fight Pacquiao. If I don't get neither one of them fights, I'm good. That was the whole, I don't need Errol Spence. But exactly, that's what he was saying. He said, I'm just going to lay up and I'm just going to chill because I don't need Errol Spence. Errol Spence needs me. That was that whole conversation. Yeah, and that was Terrence Crawford saying that.
Yeah, but he got to
so
fight
that's
somebody.
What goes into the whole thing about, exactly, but that goes into my whole conversation of if he's saying that rather than just, I'm going to fight whoever's in front of me. But if you're saying I'm only going to fight these 2 guys and not fight nobody, and then Bomac has also bolstered those comments with the same kind of conversation, we got a problem about this fight even happening.
Right. Yeah, but again, but remember, that
didn't even turn into a question of the comment.
Oh, okay. Well, but let me respond real quick. But let me respond real quick. That's all good and dandy until Sean Porter activate the mandatory position. Then Crawford, regardless of what he want to do, none of that matters because now he got to defend his title, and I know he won't vacate his belt, so he's gonna have to make it do what it do. And like I said, Crawford team confirmed if Porter activate a mandatory position, then they with the smoke. The love is gonna go out of the window. So it is what it is. But yeah, what's your last question? Because I gotta pick up other calls.
Nah, man, that was, I thought it was a question, but it was a comment. So I'm good, bro. AKHi, I appreciate your work. Appreciate what you do. Keep doing what you do, man.
Appreciate it, my brother. Thank you for the call.
All right.
All right. So the number is in the description box. Go ahead, pick up one more call. I mean, I'm gonna pick up more than one call, but on to the next call. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, bro? It's your boy Demetrius back again.
Demetrius. Well, you know, Errol Spence obviously fought tonight. You know, Javante congratulated him. He said, you know, congratulations to Errol Spence. You back. Stay healthy and keep kicking ass. Strat season. So, what was your take on the fight? You know, obviously, Errol Spence is coming off a car accident. So, how you rate his performance? Where do you rate Errol Spence on the pound for pound list after this performance?
I mean, he's right at the top. Obviously, him and Terrence Crawford. That's kind of a tough one to say right now, because, like you said, I mean, I think he was a little higher than 70%. Maybe I give him like 80, maybe 85%, but he definitely was not 100%. Because, like you said, I was going to touch on it earlier, but I kind of touched on one of the points where he gets stronger as he fights. Like, if you watch all his fights, he always starts out aggressive, and then around 10, 11, 12, he's still aggressive. He's still full of energy. That's why he really, like, outlasts his opponents. But he kind of gassed out tonight. I was kind of surprised, but then I was like, all right, he hasn't really fought in like a year and a half almost, so I didn't really blame him too much. But he kind of got back to it around, like, 11 and 12, even though Danny had a pretty good, decent round 10 and 11, but he definitely outshined him.
And then Danny, you know, Angel, he was frustrated with Danny because, you know, Danny, when he tells Danny Garcia something, Danny will always try to execute whatever his father says. So he kept telling Danny, you know, go forward, you know, don't go backward, because obviously Errol Spence P's and Q's is on his front foot, and if you keep going backward, he definitely gonna eat you up. And he got so frustrated. He was telling Danny Garcia, you know, don't let him score pity pat punches on you. But Danny Garcia ain't no fool. You know, them punches didn't feel like pity pat. You know what I mean? So it's one thing, you know, for Danny to, you know, it's one thing to try to execute a game plan, but it's another when you getting hit. And Errol Spence was controlling him with the jab. I mean, I never seen Errol Spence eye get swole to that extent. You know, Errol Spence was just putting on a boxing clinic, you know, outworking him in the inside, and he pretty much didn't have no answer for Errol Spence inside game. But with this performance, knowing that Errol Spence fought all the top guys at 147, other than Crawford right now and Keith. So with this performance coming off a car accident and a layoff, where do you put him on the pound for pound list?
I mean, is it possible for him to be a tie with Terrence Crawford? I mean, maybe it's my personal. I mean, obviously, his
where you got Crawford?
Better.
So where do you have Crawford place?
I go back and forth. Sometimes I have Spence number one. Sometimes I have Crawford number one. I mean, obviously, if you're going by resume and, you know, accomplishment, Spence definitely number one. But in my head, I'm just picturing if they fight, what might happen. Spence probably. I mean, at 100%, it's tough because, you know, Terrence Crawford is real versatile. He likes to feel out his opponents, but Spence doesn't really give you a chance to feel him out because he always comes out at 100%, like downhill, like you said. So it's like a lot of times Crawford likes to come out and, you know, the first two rounds, he'll kind of see what you're about, he'll kind of like analyze you, but Spence doesn't really give you that time. You don't really have that big of a window to kind of, you know, see what's going on with you just coming at you.
And that's the problem like Danny had tonight. Yeah, and that's what happened with counter punchers. They need time to think, and Errol Spence work rate with skill and sharp defense. You know, it's hard to keep up the pace with Errol because he's always like 10 steps ahead of you. You know, but Errol did say that a fight with Crawford, they're gonna go in the ring and try to kill each other. So you know what mindset Errol Spence have when it comes to Crawford, because it was skill recognized skill. Yeah. So you know, I got Crawford pound for pound number one. I got Errol Spence pound for pound number two. So this is number one, number two, not just in a division, but in boxing, period. So I just, you know, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered from how Crawford is going to be able to handle a southpaw like Errol, because he's always effective with his southpaw position. But nevertheless, you know, Errol Spence still need a tune-up, in my humble opinion, another tune-up to be back 100%, since he didn't look like 100% tonight. So in the meantime, Crawford could fight a name opponent like everybody want him to do. You know, he could take care of his mandatory Sean.
Yeah, I think you should just get Sean Porter out the way, like you said. Just go, because I feel like Sean Porter is going to activate that, whether he likes it or not. Like, I think he's waiting to see if he can get a Spence rematch. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I mean, I don't see why Spence would do it right now. Maybe later in his career. But
yeah, well, Andre Ward said
just giving him a rematch, right?
Right. Andre Ward said Sean is a throwback fighter. He wins some, he lose some, but he want all the smoke. He ducks no one. So, you know, he obviously, you know, talking about what Sean said after the fight, in which Sean supposedly he want Crawford. That's his main objective, on top of an Errol Spence rematch. I thought it was the other way around. So with the Errol Spence fight, we know Errol Spence beat both Danny Garcia and Sean, who fought each other for that title. You know what I'm saying? So there's no point right now for us to see Sean rematch with Errol Spence. I think stylistically, I would love to see Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter, because you got to remember that, you know, Sean, he's that, you know, a lot of people call it, you know, he got a frustrating style, you know, all that feinting. And,
he's kind of like aggressive, kind of unorthodox, kind of like.
And he uses his body.
He's definitely not as downhill as Errol Spence, but he's definitely kind of, you know.
Yeah, he uses his body. He uses his physical attributes. Yeah. He push you off in the inside, make it ugly, make it uncomfortable. A quote that Sean said that, you know, I think it describes him perfectly. He said, "If you comfortable, I'm uncomfortable. So my job is to make you uncomfortable so I could be comfortable." So you could just imagine what he does in the ring. Like I said, he will push you. It ain't going to be a clean fight. He's going to hold you with one arm, hit you with another. And it ain't just holding. He's holding and pushing. Now you got to be physically strong.
Yeah, he likes to play that mental game with you. Like, what gets on your nerves, I'm going to try to find that and exploit it.
That's what I'm saying. Errol Spence managed to beat him at his own game. I think Terrence wouldn't make the mistake of fighting Sean Porter at his own game. I think Terrence Crawford will be wise to, you know, do his thing and box. I think stylistically, outside of Errol Spence, I think Sean Porter will give Crawford his toughest fight because of the style Sean Porter brings to the table. However, I mean, with Crawford, you just never know, man. I mean, something about Crawford, every time he step into the ring, he approaches every fight differently in the way he fights, the way he solves the puzzle.
Yeah, he's like a chameleon or like a unicorn.
Yeah, he turns southpaw, goes Super Saiyan, and land a punch that you don't see coming. Like I said, all his fights at 147 they've been all stoppage. You know, he's supposedly a boxer, but he truly a
that's what they're saying.
Puncher.
People like try to punish him for it too, because it's like he doesn't really like a lot of his fights. He kind of dominates, so people just like, oh, he never fights anybody. But like at the time, some of these fighters were like really good opponents, and people thought they were gonna do good. He just embarrasses them. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, he hasn't fought anybody. His resume is trash.
Yeah, the Kell
Brook. Like, nah, he adapts real well. Like, he just hasn't fought a level of a Spence that, like, maybe he won't be able to adapt. But I think, personally, he could still stick to what he does, like, the first 2 rounds, come out and try to see. Obviously, you got to protect himself a little more, because that jab, you know, he was having I wouldn't say a real problem, but a slight problem with Kell Brook's jab. And if he had that same type of problem with Spence jab, it's going to turn out worse. So I think he'll get better at that.
Right, but especially from a southpaw. Yeah, especially from a southpaw.
Yeah,
you know, that's why I said that fight will be super interesting. But see, that's the thing about Crawford. You just don't know what you're gonna get with him. So maybe Sean Porter fight is gonna be a close fight, maybe not, because something about Crawford, if he fight his fight with his speed and power, you know, if he could handle, because one thing about Crawford, he is not somebody you could bully around. A lot of people think Sean is just gonna bully him. Remember, Jeff Horn bullied the shit out of Manny Pacquiao. Excuse my language, but he was bullying Pacquiao from pillar to post. Pacquiao, like, that fight was not close because Pacquiao wasn't ready. It was just Pacquiao was just like, damn, man, this man, he making it ugly. But when Jeff Horn tried to do the same thing to Crawford, you saw Crawford, he used that against Jeff Horn. He started catching him with blows. He's physically stronger than what a lot of people think. He's physically strong. So I don't think Sean Porter is going to just bully him around. I think it's going to be a fight for sure. If Sean could take Crawford punches, I mean, obviously Sean, he could take a punch, but Crawford will catch you with that punch you don't see. That's usually the punch that will hurt you the most. So Yeah, I mean, you never know. So that's why we want to see
it's
the
always
fight.
like a random kind of.
Right, right.
It's never something you can predict with Crawford. That's the thing. Like people try to like set up these scenarios of like why he will or won't do something, but it's like you can't really rank him. But I mean, you can rank him at one, but you can't really predict what he's gonna do because, like you said, he adapts. He'll switch back and forth. He'll, you know, sometimes he throws a jab a lot, sometimes he throws hooks a lot. He just kind of is.
Yeah, supposedly he don't even have a game plan. He just go in the ring and figure you out and make adjustments. And that's
that's what
like,
they say. I mean, I think he has game plans. He just doesn't like. He'll save it in his back pocket. They do say that. I've heard that though. I've heard he said, "Well, he just goes in there." Like obviously he probably prepares, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I think the way that works,
I find it hard to believe that he don't have nothing to.
Yeah,
but I know. I've definitely heard that though. He definitely saves the plan.
Yeah, I don't think he goes into the fight and like, man, I don't got no game plan at all. I think he just works on everything. He just work on moving around,
right,
applying pressure, and whatever worked best, that's what he does. I think that's how he approached every fight. You know, I'm gonna try to do everything.
Yeah,
but
probably like if I need this, he has probably plan B, plan C, but he probably never gets to it a lot of the time.
Right, right. So that's what I'm saying. Like Andre Ward, for example, he was one of them special fighters that every time he fought an opponent, he would fight him differently. People thought he was gonna box Froch, and he bullied Froch when Froch kept telling him, you know, you're not gonna fight me, you ain't gonna back me up. And Andre Ward, he proved a point to Froch. He wanted to prove a point personally to Froch, right? And that's how Andre Ward approached a lot of fights in his career. Like he would always fight differently, and you'd be like, damn, I don't even know what to expect with Andre Ward. And Crawford have that same thing. Like you really don't know what to expect from Crawford because see, with Errol, you know what to expect. You know, he gonna box smart and he gonna apply pressure. You know, so you could prepare for him more than you could prepare for a Crawford. I'm not saying he's easier to beat, but I'm just saying you at least know what he's gonna do. You know,
that's what I was trying to say. I just didn't. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He finished like what I was trying to get at, but basically the same thing. Like he's more unpredictable than Spence. Like even though Spence's game plan works 99% of the time, 100% really, but you know, but that's basically the same thing I was trying to say. Like we don't know. Like people keep creating these scenarios of why, like, oh, he's not ready or he is ready, but you know.
Right.
Yep.
Really so that's what I'm saying. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Crawford, you know, Errol's like a Mike Tyson. You know how Mike, you know he gonna come forward and bully you. Not to the extent because Errol Spence got different gears to him. He could box too. He could move around. He showed that against Mikey, and even tonight. But his P's and Q's is applying pressure, putting you on the rope. You know, dominating you in the inside. That's just what he does best. So you know, you could at least, you know, somewhat know how to prepare for a fight. But yeah, Crawford, I mean, you over here, what you gonna prepare for, a southpaw or orthodox? You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's like you don't even know what stance you gonna be in.
You know what I'm
like,
saying? That shit, man. You know how frustrating that is. What you gonna do? Spar southpaws and orthodox fighters? You know,
man,
spar people that's gonna apply
I know it's like
back.
frustrating when it's like,
yeah,
right.
He
like,
can fight on
the professional fight. Like usually when people do that, that's like the backyard type of stuff.
Yeah, he could fight on the front foot, on the back foot. So that's what I'm saying. You know, that's why I think this is the fight of the decade because stylistically, Errol Spence versus Crawford, man, I feel like, man, this is going to be fireworks. One thing about Errol Spence, every single pay-per-view I purchased, I got every single penny. I'm talking about the man goes to war. You know what I mean? Errol Spence, he got to be the most exciting fighter in the game. Yeah, he got to be the most exciting. Yeah. I mean, with Mikey, even though it was a beatdown, it was still exciting. Normally, when you see a one-sided beatdown, it don't be exciting, at least according to the fans, right? But when it comes to Errol, it's always exciting. You know what I mean? He must see TV. But is there anything else you got to say before I pick up another call?
No, that was pretty much it. I'm looking forward to next week too, December 12th. They got we was just laughing about Top Rank, but they got some good up and coming.
Yeah, Shakur.
Like Shakur Stevenson and Edgar Berlanga.
Yes, sir.
There's another guy called Hitman Haven Brady too. He just started. He like 1-0. He fight next week too. So yeah, it's gonna be
on ESPN.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be on the lookout for him. Definitely. Ain't Canelo fight next week too? Or maybe that's December 19th.
I gotta double. It's a lot of because there's a fight after that, and I think Ryan Garcia is the 28th. I gotta get my dates right. It's
Right.
definitely the rest of the month is packed.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua
So,
fighting this week too. That's coming up. I think.
right, that's who. Well, yeah, he fight next week too.
Yeah. So, oh
earlier
man, we in for a treat. That's for sure.
Yeah, next week. Look.
They gave us an early Christmas present. So appreciate you, my brother. Go ahead and pick up another call.
All right, bro.
Yes, sir.
Peace, bro.
Peace. I thought I saw Craig. Where Craig at? How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
Yeah, what's going on, AKHi? This is Jay calling from Minnesota.
What's going on, Jay? Obviously, the truth is back on the map like he never left. And, you know, obviously, if you've been listening, you know, I think Errol Spence, you know, he looked great. I mean, he dominated Danny Garcia more than any of Danny Garcia's previous opponents. Matter of fact, more than anybody throughout his pro career. You know, Errol Spence leading up to the fight, he said he wanted to give Danny Garcia the beating of his life, the beating of his career. And I think he delivered on that. So that being said, what did you see on Errol? You think he was 70%, 80% back? Do you want to see him on another tune-up with maybe a Keith Thurman if Keith could get another W? What's your take on that? Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman, if not a Pacquiao or an Ugas?
I would say at this point, Errol Spence pretty much proved himself. Now, I would say he looked like he was about 85 to 90%, not quite where he needed to be because he even mentioned himself that he gassed out. So I'd say about 85 to 90%. So, yes, he did get the cobwebs off, and I'm glad that he did that, but now he needs to I think he needs to keep going. Now, who's next? I personally would like him to go against I personally would like for him to go against the Ugas. I believe that would be a chess match. I would love that fight. Right. Now Keith Thurman, really, I think Keith Thurman, it would be a good fight. That would be a good fight as well. But I think that if he hits Keith Thurman with a lot of those body shots that we've seen Danny Garcia take, I think Keith Thurman goes down. Keith Thurman goes down late.
Yeah, Keith said leading up to the Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence fight, he said that he don't understand why Errol Spence wouldn't fight him because he's fighting his last two previous opponents that he beat, which is Danny and Sean. So he was like, "What about me?" Obviously, the reason why is because he lost to Pacquiao, and Errol Spence was disappointed in that. And Keith never gave him a shot when Errol Spence wanted that fight as bad as he wanted to breathe. Keith kept saying that, yeah, I'm one time, but I'm cool being number 2 in the division. So Errol Spence feel like tables turn. So I don't see Errol Spence fighting Keith next unless Keith could get a W. Keith got to get a W. I don't care who it is. He just need a tune-up, and if he scores knockout, if it's, you know, even if it's not a name opponent, just get a W like Sean Porter did. Stay active. Sean lost to Errol, came back already. So if Keith wins and call out Errol Spence, I think he could possibly land an opportunity against Errol Spence. Me personally, I will prefer Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman because the bad blood, man, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I want to see that fight. I wanted to see it 5 years ago. I was devastated that Keith Thurman didn't give Errol Spence the shot. But because I was one of them people that I was thinking Keith was going to be the first guy that gives Errol Spence the opportunity to greatness instead of Kell Brook, but he didn't, right? So that's why I think the fight is not going to happen next unless Keith Thurman put himself in position to get a shot, to get an opportunity, to become a mandatory maybe. But if not, you know, an Ugas fight will be lovely as well. But me personally, I would prefer a Keith Thurman fight. I think Ugas will be a closer fight. I think Ugas, you know, he will present more a bigger problem than a Keith because, like you said, I don't think Keith could withstand the punishment Errol Spence put on Danny Garcia. I mean, to the head or to the body. Because one thing about Danny, even though he lost to both Sean Porter and Keith, Danny always been one of the strongest guys in any division he fought in. You know, he got an iron chin, and he's just a tough guy. And he got a good defense. I think one thing Danny Garcia doesn't get credit for is him staying in the pocket or even in the mid-range outside. He got a good defense. Regardless if people feel like he's stiff, whatever, he got a good defense, and he displayed that tonight because Errol was having trouble connecting, cleanly at times because of Danny Garcia defense. What's your take on all the above?
And another thing that what makes Danny Garcia such a great opponent, not his ability to counterpunch, but his ability to punch with you. Like you could be punching him, and then when you're trying to reset, his punch is coming. So that's what makes him such a great fighter. And that's how he's knocked out a lot of the guys that he's knocked out at 100, even at 140 pounds. A lot of the guys he beat at 140 pounds, he was punching with them. Or when somebody was throwing a punch at him, he was throwing either the short left hook, he was throwing that short left hook, or he was throwing that right hand over the top when somebody else was throwing their left hook. So, like, that's why Danny Garcia deserves a lot of credit. Right. And I even love the fact that how he handles himself in the post-fight, the press conference. He's a great sportsman. You know, he was like, hey, no excuses, the better man won, which is what I felt. You know, it was he easily won. And of course, you know, any other person that Danny Garcia fights right now with that same style that he fought tonight, he gives any other welterweight 6. He gives any other welterweight 6.
Yeah.
But it's just that Errol Spence he's just that great of a fighter. He was able to get in there, and he was able to make him think about throwing punches.
And he hanged in there, and he hanged in there with Errol Spence. One thing for sure, you know, Danny Garcia, he don't get the credit he deserved because of obviously certain decisions he made throughout his career, but nevertheless, he's a game opponent. Like you said, you know, he had definitely great sportsmanship after the fight when he said that, you know, I give myself a lot of credit, you know, or he said something like, you know, I'm proud of myself, I think. He said, yeah, I'm proud of myself. The reason why he said that, like I said before, Errol Spence was putting a beat down on him. I mean, in the 7th round, it looked like it was about to be Mikey Garcia 2.0. And out of nowhere, Danny Garcia found the second win. That's why I think he said he was proud of himself because his dad was very frustrated with him. He kept telling him, why are you backing up? Why are you backing up? Obviously, he backing up because the truth is right in front of him. But he still tried to execute the game plan and tried to do his best to back up Errol. Errol obviously got gassed out, which helped Danny do so. But nevertheless, his defense, his iron chin, his heart, how bad he wanted the fight, one thing for sure, you know, he didn't just shell up like Mikey Garcia did. He let his hands go and, you know, he wanted it. But again, something about the truth. He's one of them great fighters. You know, he done beat everybody at 147. And this time to prove, you know, he got a couple more, but he's definitely a legend soon to be. But yeah, you could finish your thoughts. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, he good. But yeah, man, and also to speak on the Terrence Crawford a little bit. Now, yes, I'm aware of all the comments that's been going on, or all the things that's been said, and all the things that's been going on in the background. Now, my opinion is, no matter what Terrence Crawford says about whether he needs him or not, he knows, and the rest of the public know that they need each other if they want to be undisputed. Right. If you want to be undisputed, and that's what your goal is, you need each other. And Pacquiao is a part of that equation. So one of them has to go get Pacquiao.
Pacquiao, he either needs to give up the belt. Yeah, Pacquiao need to either give up the belt or fight one of them guys. If he not interested, that's cool. Like a lot of people say, oh, Pacquiao old, Pacquiao this, Pacquiao that. Okay, fine. Like, all right, but he holding the strap hostage. You can't hold the strap hostage and get mad at the fans for wanting to see the fight because he got one of the main straps at 147, and we want to see undisputed. We want to see one face, one name. And like you said, I agree with you 1,000%. Errol says, he don't need Crawford, but he gonna fight Crawford. Crawford said the same thing. So it's like, nah, the fans want this fight. What you mean? We want to see this fight. I mean, this is like the most anticipated fight in the sport of boxing, skill-wise, power-wise, pound for pound-wise. This is our Hearn versus Leonard. This is our Frazier versus Ali. We gotta see this fight.
Exactly. And then not only that, but the thing is, the problem with Pacquiao dropping the belt is that now two other guys got to go and fight for that WBA strap. And then who knows how long we prolong the process of undisputed. So I don't think Pacquiao dropped that belt. Pacquiao is going to use that as leverage because he knows that these two guys have to go see him to conquer the division. He knows that. So he's going to be smart and he's going to try to fend off, have them two fight each other, and then he's going to try to go last. He's going to try to do it, but I don't think he's going to get away with it.
But the only
problem, there's going to be too much money on him.
Yeah, but timing is not on his side either, though. That's the problem. Pacquiao is 41. I think he's 41. So you don't want to keep waiting, man. He had a Keith Thurman win 2019, right? I mean, it's about to be 221 in a month. You know what I mean? So the time is not on his side. So if he gonna fight a Conor McGregor, the WBA already notified him that you got to defend your title. You're gonna have to fight a Mikey Garcia. Even you have to stay active. So if he doesn't stay active, if he doesn't fight if he doesn't fight a Crawford or Errol Spence, then he obviously gonna have to vacate the belt if he chooses to go the Conor McGregor route. I don't think they're gonna allow that fight to be for a title because Conor he's 0-1 as a pro in the sport of boxing. So that being said, unless there's too much money on the line and politics kick in and they allow Pacquiao to keep the belt and defend it against Conor McGregor, that'd be crazy. But if, like you said, if he does vacate the belt, what's going to happen with it? I think Ugas will fight for that title because he's the regular champion. When the super champion is vacated, the regular champion either get elevated to it or fight someone for it. So Ugas could Ugas could actually fight Keith Thurman for the belt because Keith Thurman, he's been wanting an opportunity. So that will be a great opportunity to come back to the game. If Keith gets the WBA super strap and is able to defeat a Ugas or the other way around, then Errol Spence will definitely be interested in the winner. And so will Crawford. That way, that's why I said if Crawford comes to PBC, they could play this out like a tournament, depending on what Pacquiao do. If Pacquiao chooses to, go to the Conor McGregor route, the money route, it's okay. It is what it is. But that belt is going to be free. Ugas and Keith Thurman could fight for the strap. And, Sean could fight Crawford. Errol Spence could fight the winner of that. Then it could be set up like a tournament where they all face each other at the end. The winners versus the winners, the losers versus the losers. And that will bring life to the sport of boxing. I'm talking about, man, that's going to be a come up for PBC if they could do that, because they could even come out with a belt and say the PBC belt is for undisputed and give it to the winner. They could start a tradition with a PBC belt, kind of like the UFC belt, establishing a dominant franchise in the sport of boxing, the way the UFC is for the way the UFC did with the MMA. Boxing, they could do the same thing.
Yeah, they could. But I think personally, Manny Pacquiao, his first comeback fight, I think he goes after Mikey Garcia. I think that's the fight he takes because he's been out of the ring longer than both Garcia and Spence. So I think he goes after Mikey Garcia. I think that's the fight he takes. And then, later on in the year, because Manny Pacquiao already said on his Instagram that he wanted the winner of Garcia and Spence. He's already made it clear that that's who he wants. So I think he takes the Mikey Garcia fight first, to get rid of his cobwebs, because he hasn't fought since July of 2019. So I think he takes him, And then like sometime in July or something like that, or August, he fights he fights Spence. He fights Spence. I think that's how that's gonna go.
Well, let me say this though.
But
well, let me say this: that Mikey Garcia fight ain't guaranteed either. I mean, Pacquiao's old, and you just don't know. I mean, Father Time undefeated, so ain't no telling how the Mikey Garcia fight might play out. Stylistically, it's not a good matchup because it reminds me of the Marquez fight. Mikey's not the fastest in the world, but he could definitely time Pacquiao coming in with that right hand. So, ain't no telling. So, but what's your last comments before I pick up more calls? Because, I got a few people that's waiting on me. So, go ahead, get your last take.
Well, I do say that the one last comment I have is that I do agree with what the last caller was saying about Terrence Crawford. I think he ends up signing back with Top Rank, unfortunately. I think he does. Because the way they're talking and their rhetoric is pointing in that direction. I mean, after a man disrespects you to the level that Bob Arum disrespected you, you should have had him the walking papers right there and figured out what do I need to do to get out of this contract. We can work all that business stuff out. If I'm not an asset to you, why should I continue paying you as my promoter if you don't believe in my brand?
That's the
we will work out whatever.
Yeah, that's the logical
stipulations of the contract. We'll figure it out.
Right, that's the logical thing to do, but we don't know what's the term of the contract. We don't know if Crawford could do that because Bob, a lot of fighters been leaving him lately. So, ain't no telling what kind of terms he put on the contract. It might freeze Crawford for a year or two, and he don't want to do that because he at the peak of his prime and he about to decline, so he don't want to go through that. I think in my humble opinion, he's just playing it safe. He playing smart. I think he's just, trying to either, fight one more time on the Top Rank, get the contract over with, then head to PBC. Because remember, if he does try to say too much and go back and forth with Bob in the media, you don't know how that could backfire. Because if Crawford, ain't no telling, boxing is the wild, wild west. He could end up getting robbed, as far as I know, in his next fight, because boxing is the wild, wild west. You know what I mean? And you don't want to pull no strings with Bob. You know what I mean? So I just think that he playing it safe, in my humble opinion. But I truly don't believe he's gonna re-sign with Top Rank. That'd be ridiculous. I mean, that's like a career suicide move, because you can't be complaining about the fights you don't get after that, because it ain't guaranteed. You know what I mean? But I don't think I truly believe he won't make the mistake. But great talking with you, my brother. Yeah. What'd you say?
I was saying that I hope Terrence Crawford proves me wrong, because the way he's talking, that's the direction it sounds like it's going. Now, and I pray that he does it.
Right. Now, yeah, I think he's just being politically correct, man. I don't think he do it. He said it. He said it to the public that if you feel like that, Bob, release me. But like I said, I just don't believe he could say too much in his position. But great talking with you, my brother.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love the show, and stay blessed, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for calling in. I'm gonna pick up 2 more calls. So, how you doing, AKHi? Hello? I think my man. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the last caller. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
How you doing, man? This Lopez, this is the emo champ. Calling from the Bronx, New York.
New York. What's going on? Talk to me.
You hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
I was gonna let you know, man. I just wanted to make you salute, you get a shout out, and you know what I'm saying? Like, if Lopez, he's undisputed, right? I keep saying he's not undisputed. He is undisputed. You know that, right?
Well, that's not what the record books say. Did you Google it?
Did you go to? He got 5 belts. Hold on.
There's only 4 belts. There's only 4 belts in boxing. Well, what's the 5th belt?
What you mean? He got the best. This is what I'm saying to you. He got the best belt, the ringside belt. They don't give that belt to just anybody. You know that, right?
Well, I didn't say anything about the ringside belt. I said the WBC belt. He don't
have
got
the belt though, right? You say he don't.
But you said
he got the ringside belt.
You said 5 though. He don't got the WBC belt because Devin Haney's the WBC
5, bro.
champion.
He got the listen. I'm gonna name the 5 belts for you. The WC franchise belt, right? The Super WBA, the WBO, the IBF, and the ringside belt.
The franchise belt is not a title though. That's not a belt nor a title.
It is a title because he got it. He got
because
it.
okay, but the WBC
because,
president,
listen,
the
right
WBC. Let
now.
me say this: the WBC president came out and said that that's not a title, nor a belt, nor a championship. That's what the president said. That he also said that the main belt, the face of the organization, is the regular WBC belt. So we don't got to disagree. All you got to do, we can't disagree with facts. Let me just put it out. Hold on. If you, okay, I want you to do something right now. You could prove me wrong right now. I want you to prove it to me. All right. You listening?
All right, got it.
I want you to go, just Google this real quick. Just put Teofimo Lopez, right? Put Teofimo Lopez BoxRec. BoxRec, this is one of the main websites in the sport of boxing that, you know, obviously analysts use, media members use, just to check the facts. Go click on Teofimo Lopez BoxRec. Are you doing that?
I got you with that.
I want you to listen. I want you to click on it. No, hold on. But let me finish. Listen. You can answer me the question, but after, yeah, but you can answer me any question. But I want you to Google it first and tell me, what do you see? I want to see what you see out your own eyes. Go to Teofimo Lopez. I want you to see. They got him at the regular WBC champion. I know that. Right. No. Forget Devin Haney. Forget Devin Haney. I'm not talking about Devin. Hold on. I don't forget about Devin. We're not talking about Devin. I want you to Google Teofimo Lopez BoxRec. Click on his name and check out the rankings. When you look at the rankings, I want you, his last opponent, Vasyl Lomachenko, you're going to see a W. What do you see? What belts he fought for? What does it say on BoxRec? What belts he fought for? Can you name me what belts he fought for?
I gotta look that up. I gotta go.
Right, yeah, just right now, Teofimo Lopez BoxRec. It ain't. You know, I mean, just put Teofimo Lopez BoxRec.
Hold on a second. Can I ask you something? Let me explain something with the belts.
All right.
You saying the franchise WBC belt doesn't mean nothing?
Listen. I want you to tell me what you see first. We gotta get past. We gotta pass stage one. You digressed then from my point. What do you see on BoxRec? What do you see when on the Vasyl Lomachenko win under that? What belts he fought for?
I'm talking to you, bro. I'm not looking at.
You can look at. I know you could Google. Man, this is 2020. I could Google while I'm on the phone with you right now. I could Google while I'm on the phone with you. Everybody believe in Google. Everybody believe it. Okay, I'm gonna do it for you since you don't want to do it. See, you want to talk with your emotional opinion, but you don't want to talk facts. I'm gonna Google it for you just to prove it. Just to prove you wrong and show everybody what you don't want to show the public. You see, when you go to BoxRec, that Vasyl Lomachenko win, what you see is the WBA belt, the IBF belt, and the WBO belt. You don't see the WBC belt. This is what BoxRec says. So the record book, the history book, don't have Teofimo as undisputed. So what are we debating about?
Can I ask you something, Akeem?
So you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree with that?
Listen,
do you agree with that?
I agree with you. I agree.
All right, thank you. So the boxing record books don't have Teofimo as undisputed.
You ask my question now.
Go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and answer your question.
Okay, my question to you is: if Lomachenko would have beat Lopez, you would have been considered undisputed. If you would have beat Lopez,
if who?
If Lomachenko would have beat Lopez, you wouldn't be considered undisputed.
Why would he be undisputed?
Are you serious? He kicked that belt.
No, he won't be undisputed. He gave up the WBC belt. He gave up the WBC belt to avoid Devin Haney.
Hold on. So you telling me that Lomachenko just gave the belt no reason? Have you telling me?
Yeah, he ordered witness protection. Hello? He ordered a French fries belt.
That Lomachenko don't want to be undisputed. He just gave them the belt to Devin Haney not to be undisputed. I keep telling you.
Answer this question. When you go to BoxRec, what do you see? Do you see him as undisputed? Does BoxRec say he undisputed?
Bro, listen. I'm gonna tell you why Devin Haney.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. You're right. Numbers don't lie. And on BoxRec, you can't disagree with the numbers because it has Teofimo listed as a unified champion, not undisputed. This is your opinion. Everybody got an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody got one. But the facts will always remain the same. You digressed from my point. You say you agree. BoxRec have him listed as unified champion. So what are we talking about?
Lopez is the best at 135. He's the ace at 135. Tank needs to fight Lomachenko. He was scared of Lomachenko. Go fight Shakur or Lomachenko.
So Hey, but Devin Haney, but Lomachenko avoided Devin. But Lomachenko avoided Devin Haney though. But Devin Haney, but Lomachenko avoided Devin Haney. He gave him a new nickname, Nomachenko. And now Tio Lopez, he went from the takeover to taking parts. He no longer wanted to take over. Now he chose to take parts and pick and choose because he recognized Devin Haney as a real threat. He knows that's his rival. Now you just too much emotionally invested.
He's not the king right now. Listen to him, yes, he's done.
You just too much.
He's 135 right now.
You just too much.
He's not the A-side 135.
Oh, look, you talking silly. You talking mad silly because you talking about he not the A-side. We're not talking about the A-side though. We talking about the undisputed status. You said that he undisputed, which that's a lie. Because you don't want to Google. You don't even want to Google the facts. The truth hurts, don't it? So face the truth. The truth just fought tonight. So face the truth, bruh. Just Google it. Since you believe in Google, Google it. Any website. It don't got to be BoxRec. I just gave you one. You could Google any website. They all have Teofimo listed as unified, not undisputed. So that's another body on the record, Decaf. Hey, Decaf.
All of them.
Decaf. Tell.
To be great, in the front cover of the Ring magazine to be great, bro. All the great ones did it on the front cover. I haven't seen Devin Haney on the front cover. I haven't seen Errol Spence on the front cover. Lopez is the king, motherfucker. You heard?
Hey, did you see Devin Haney put T.O. on the cover as a duck, undisputed, unducksputed? Did you see that?
That belt was given to Devin Haney, bro. He never fought nobody.
It's not given when Lomachenko ducked him. Lomachenko, he waved the white flag.
Ducked him, bro.
Listen, Devin Haney changed Lomachenko last name to Nomachenko. He changed Teofimo nickname to taking parts from the takeover. So how you gonna talk about a boogeyman? The A-class boogeyman that got everybody shook. You talking about Gervonta? He didn't fight Lomachenko. Shit, Lomachenko. Lomachenko was avoiding Devin Haney. Lomachenko was avoiding Devin Haney. And now everybody doing the same. Everybody following that Lomachenko blueprint. Tio called Devin Haney an email champion, but he the one that requested a French fries belt through email to avoid Devin Haney. Ain't that right?
That's true story. Come on. Hold on a second. Who did Devin Haney fought for that belt? If he's not an emo champ.
He beat Lomachenko for it. He fought Lomachenko for it because Lomachenko didn't have no cojones to hop in the ring. He didn't have no cojones to find the ring. Same thing for Charlo. What did Charlo do? What is Charlo the WBC champion? Listen. Is Charlo the WBC champion? Is Charlo the WBC champion? I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. Hey, I don't care what you think. Facts remain the same. Ain't Charlo the WBC champion? Answer this question. Hey, is Charlo the WBC champion?
Yes, he is.
Who did he beat for it?
I don't know who the fuck he beat for it.
Did he beat Canelo? Hold on. Canelo. No, listen. Canelo, you don't watch that. Oh, you're a decaf. You don't watch that. But Canelo was the franchise champion. I mean, he was the WBC champion, and he requested a franchise champion. So who did Charlo beat for it?
Well, I guess he passed it over to him.
You stuck. That's what I'm saying. Lomachenko passed it to him because he had no cojones to hop in the ring with him. See how you got stuck? Because you just talking out your a-hole. Listen, let me tell you this. Let me see. If you think Devin Haney is not that good, why doesn't Teofimo fight him next? Why doesn't Teofimo fight him next? Why doesn't Teofimo fight Devin Haney next? Yeah, why doesn't he fight Devin Haney next?
He wants to fight Devin Haney. What are you talking about? He's brought them out. But tell Devin Haney, since he's a boss,
okay,
right?
he said, okay, see, again, that's why you a decaf. Teofimo came out and said that I'm not going to fight Devin Haney to the next 5 years. He got to prove himself for have a decade to earn a fight with me. So even Teofimo don't agree with you. You're not even on the same page as Tio. You're not even on the same page as Tio. Tio's saying different things than you. You ain't Tio, bro. You ain't Tio. Hey, bro, you ain't Tio. Hey, who is this? Who is this? Who I'm talking to? Who I'm talking to? Who I'm talking to?
You talking to me?
Exactly. You ain't T.O., bro. Quit speaking like you T.O. T.O. said he ain't gonna fight Devin Haney for the next 5 years. So you got knocked out on split decision being too emotional. Man, these decafs don't have no brain to think with. They don't want to even Google the facts. The truth just fought, and they don't want to face the truth. Come on, man. I mean, these decafs, man. So I'm about to end the show. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is, or where you calling from?
Yo, AKHi, what it do, bro? It's your boy Jay. I freaking hung up by accident.
You good, you good. Hey, I'm glad you hanged up, man, because we had a real decaf calling in. We had a real decaf calling in, a super decaf on steroids. He was a super decaf on steroids.
Another knockout. That was a beautiful knockout. He was swinging for the fences. He was trying so hard. My boy AKHi was letting you swing, and my boy was Muhammad Ali in your ass. He was rope-a-doping your ass, boy. My boy was leaving all of your shit, bro. Carrying your shit, bro. You was getting smacked, bro.
And he knocked out his own self. I'll tell you that. But let me, because my computer about to die. So I want to get your take on this. Fundora fought tonight. I think that's his name. He's like 6'6". He's as tall as Deontay Wilder at 154. Well, my camera just died on me, so we talk about it again on the next show. So that being said, I appreciate your call. Yes, I definitely talk to you next time, man.
Yes, sir. I love AKHi. You already know, bro. Day one.
Yes, sir. Appreciate everybody that's tuning in. Subscribe, click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post or go live. So make sure you guys click on that notification bell. And man, I wish these decafs on steroids will call in early on the show. But you peep the game. They wait to the last minute. But they still get knocked out either way. They still get knocked out either way. It don't matter. I give it to them how they want it. How they want it is how they get knocked out. You know what I'm saying? He knocked his own self out.
Yes.
Yes,
y'all hear that, decaf? Y'all get it? How y'all order it. My boy AKHi is the bake. My boy AKHi is the baker, and you guys are the orders. Y'all order the cookies, and my boy just stuck it down your throat.
They ordering French fries belt. They ordering French fries meals that come in a lunchbox. You know what I'm saying? That's what they ordering, trying to claim the French fries witness protection belt is a real belt. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, people lie, women lie. Facts remain the same. So appreciate you, my brother.
I love AKHi.
Yes, sir.